Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James, and today I want to go over two fun games that show how to attack the modern or what is called the Owen's opening. Basically, these openings kind of do transpose into the same thing. So, I want to just go about how to attack them. As you can see here, black is going to be playing on the light squares, or the pawns are on the light squares, and typically they even go c5 in these games, and they really just try to keep the position as close as possible and do not allow trades. I'm going to show you some really cool ways to open up the game, and even one that has a brilliant idea about sacrificing a piece just so you can get your pieces into the game. All right. Every good story starts with a good beginning, so let's get to that part. Here, we're going to start with e4, b6, and this is called the Owen's opening. And it's going to transpose into that pawn structure that we were just looking at. I like to take two pawns in the center because why not? Bishop b7 gets played, and here I go ahead and play bishop to d3. And a lot of times in these lines, a lot of people make the mistake in playing knight c3, which is not too good because this bishop will come over here and pin it, and when the bishop comes in for the pin, it makes the e4 pawn weak. So I simply use my bishop instead, and I'm going to put my pawn to c3 here because I can only imagine my beautiful pawn structure over here. All right, knight f6 gets played to attack the pawn, and again, most people here are going to look about playing knight c3. Not me. Queen to e2, a very good square for the queen, and defends the e4 pawn. Black plays e6. Here I play pawn c3. No shenanigans of bishop to b4 to get played. Here pawn to d5 gets played, and here you can see that black is doing a very good job on trying to control this e4 square. Well, here I always play the same move. I like to control squares. I like to push back my opponent. I'm going to go pawn to e5 here. The knight jumps back to d7, and here I'm going to take up all the squares I can. I love to play this move, pawn to f4, and I got one of my favorite attacking pawn structures. Okay, pawn to c5 gets played. Here I play knight to f3, and here my opponent plays knight c6. And here, although this is a very good position here for white, a lot of people have a hard time about what to play in this position here as white because, well, to attack your opponent, you need to make pawn trades, or else your pieces are just going to get stuck behind it. And a lot of times, that's what black does. He plays like pawn c4, and, well, you just have a hard time attacking. So this is one of the moves that is going to help you break through to your opponent's attack. In fact, after this move, my attack works really well, and the game ends pretty fast here for the first one. Here you play pawn to f5 here. And, black really has nothing to do here. He's going to have to allow the opening of the f-file. Either I will take or he will take. Either way, I'll be very happy. And as you can see, once I castle, well, my rook's going to get this open file here. The attack ends pretty fast here. Here, my opponent thought he was going to be able to escape this attack and plays queen c7, which apparently is just a terrible move here. And, he thought that he was just going to be able to castle real fast queenside. But here, like I said, the attack comes very fast. Pawn takes, attacking the knight. Pawn takes again, and here you play the correct move of knight to g5 right here. All right, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and give us that like and subscribe. So, what's the idea of knight to g5 here? Not only does it attack a pawn, but, well, you can't castle queenside. I mean, you can if you want to, but here I have knight takes on e6, forking the rook and the queen. Knight f7, I mean, this is just going to break through the game very, very fast. In mostly all variations, this is going to be happening. In the game, I'm not too sure why. I mean, I guess I do understand. Black wanted to defend the e6 pawn, so he went ahead and played king e7, and this got refuted very fast, or I was able to just beat this really fast with the simple castles right here. Now I have simple threats like rook f7. They're more than welcome to go pawn grabbing over here. My attack is going to be much faster, and this king is very vulnerable. Like I said, the game ends pretty fast here. After pawn takes on d4, rook f7 check got played. And here he should have played king to e8, but he blundered really faster and played king to d8. I guess the check was just scary for him, and I went ahead and played knight takes on e6, forking the king and the queen, and, he went ahead and resigned. Let's take a look at, again, this idea of trying to play f5, but this time our opponent is up to our tricks, and, this was also played by a very strong player, 2500 rated player. Let's see how we get into the same kind of pawn structure just like last time. I started up with e4, of course, pawn to b6, the Owen's opening. d4, bishop b7, attacking that pawn. I hope you adopt this move order from white. Bishop to d3 to defend. Pawn to e6, pawn to c3. Knight to e7, a very interesting move. Typically, they do go knight f6 here, so this is an interesting way to play it. Pawn to f4, you know me, I love this pawn structure, so I want to go ahead and take these three pawns in the center. Pawn to d5 gets played, so now we're kind of seeing the same idea. And now we see why black played the knight to e7 here. After I play my pawn move to e5, the knight can now jump to f5. And again, black is trying to stop any kind of pawn trades here, because if any pawn trades happen, the lack of development or pieces getting out will actually get him checkmated very fast. So here, let's go and continue. Knight to d7 got played. Again, black is playing by strategy. He wants to go pawn to c5 here. He wants to go queen c7 and castles. And, well, black is just going to try to stop any pawn trades on the king side. And so here I played knight f3 with, again, ideas about playing f5. And my opponent sniffs out this idea and plays pawn to g6. And this is very tough because a lot of people have even a harder time of trying to play a pawn f5. And, well, let's see what happens in the game. I went ahead and just I'm sorry, not castle. I played queen e2 first. Bishop g7 got played. And then I went ahead and castled. And my opponent played pawn h5. A weird-looking move, but there is merit to it. The idea is that, well, if you want to prepare f5, you would need another pawn. So here, pawn to g4 is a move I'd like to play so I can prepare f5. So, what does black play to stop pawn to g4? He played h5 himself. But here I have a very nice little tactic I like to play. But before I do the tactic, you know me, I'm going to develop my pieces first. So, bishop to e3, pawn to c5, knight b to d2, pawn to c4. Like I said, black is going to try to close the game as much as possible and not allow pawn trades. Maybe pawn takes on c5 is an idea I could play. I wouldn't be playing it just yet, but either way, black wants to go ahead and play pawn c4 to close the position. I went ahead and just played bishop back to c2. Pawn to b5. Black is planning on expanding on the queen side over here. I played bishop f2. Here my idea was to play bishop h4 to stop the knight from being moved forward, and maybe then I could play pawn to f5 in some of these situations. a5 got played, and here I played for my trick. I went ahead and played knight to g5. Now the knight is very well placed here, but I have a sacrificial idea that I'm trying to prepare, and fortunately for me, my opponent missed the idea and played knight to g8, and this sets up my idea perfectly. It is now white to move and get into a winning position. Here it's actually a double exclam. Can you find it? Hopefully you push pause and try to figure it out. Here we get to play the very beautiful knight takes on e6. Here what we're going to do is we're going to be getting two pawns. We're going to open up the king, but even more than that, we're going to open up our pieces, and now we're going to get a very strong attack out of this. I mean, if black doesn't take, he'll just be losing. I'll take on g7, and, well, the game is opened up, and that's really all I really wanted out of this. So, pawn takes on e6, and why sacrifice on e6? Because I want to make g6 weak. Bishop takes on g6 check. King goes to f8, and now you can pretty much see this rook is already eyeing on this king. And there's a few different moves to play here, but again, my rook is eyeing this king, so I want to open up the f-file, so what do I play? Pawn to f5, here we go. Black went ahead and took. Bishop takes on f5. The game ends pretty fast here. Black is already like, I already have like a +3, which is funny because I did sacrifice a piece, so I should be -3, but it's +3 just because look at all the pieces. They're all asleep. So you see, whenever black was closing the position, he had no idea. I mean, he was not prepared to actually bring out his pieces. So that's why he can keep the position closed and maneuver around as much as he wants to. So in these kind of positions, you're actually obligated to go ahead and sacrifice. Like I said, this typically happens in the Owens opening or the modern defense. And, well, my opponent played knight h6. Makes sense. They're trying to attack this bishop over here. Here I went ahead and played queen takes on h5, grabbing a pawn. It's just a free pawn here, which I do like. And, well, I want to go ahead and grab the pawn so I can get at least 3 pawns for the piece. But, of course, try to bring the queen a little bit closer. Here knight takes was played. Queen takes over here in check. The king is having a tough time over here. And he chose the wrong way. Here king g8 would be the best way to play. I'm still winning in these lines, but it's definitely going to be a better challenge. Here he played king e8, and the game is over after this move. It's actually +10 now. White to move. What's the final move of the game here? What's the final tactic that you can play here? Here's simple chess. Here you just go ahead and play queen to g6 check, and this is going to force 2 moves. Either the king will have to go to f8, which bishop h4 check looks pretty great to me, even with queen f7 checkmating ideas in the future. Or if the king goes to e7, then again you just take a free bishop over here on g7, or maybe even just play bishop h4 check here, because even after the rook takes, you can go queen to f7 for check and mate. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this. Remember, these were some fun ideas about how to attack and beat the Owen's opening, which is trying to prepare pawn to f5 in a lot of these lines. And, of course, going over this very nice sacrifice idea I play on a regular basis trying to trick my opponents. Knight takes on e6, allowing me to get 3 pawns for the piece, but the bigger thing opening up the king. Alright guys, we'll see you in the next video.